Right, let's talk about a man, a plan, and a whole lot of pamphlets. The man is Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, better known as Lenin. You've probably seen the statues, the serious face, the impressive bald head. Before leading revolutions, Lenin spent time in less than glamorous locales courtesy of the Tsarist regime. Our story kicks off around 1902. Lenin wasn't sunning himself on the French Riviera, he'd done his time in Siberian exile. After Siberia, he was in Western Europe, still in exile, still focused on revolution. During this period he penned What Is to Be Done, published in 1902. The book was a direct response to arguments within the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, RSDLP. Lenin saw a movement that was, in his view, a bit wobbly. What is to be done wasn't just a catchy title, it was a genuine question Lenin was trying to answer. Spoiler alert, people had strong feelings about it. So what was Lenin's big idea? One core concept in What Is to Be Done is the vanguard party. Lenin argued that the working class, left to its own devices, would primarily develop trade union consciousness. This means they'd fight for better wages, shorter hours, improved working conditions, all good stuff. But, Lenin believed, this alone wouldn't lead them to demand a fundamental overthrow of the capitalist system and the Tsarist autocracy. Enter the vanguard party. Lenin envisioned this as a party, the working class, leading it. It would be made up of a smaller, highly disciplined and dedicated group of professional revolutionaries. These were full-timers, individuals whose entire lives were devoted to the cause. They would be the most class-conscious, the most theoretically astute. Russia in the early 1900s wasn't a haven for free speech and open political organization. Lenin argued that under such repressive conditions, a smaller, more clandestine and highly centralized organization was essential. This concept of the vanguard party was pretty radical. It suggested that revolutionary consciousness had to be brought to the working class from the... Now let's talk about spontaneity, or as Lenin saw it, the revolutionary equivalent of just hoping for the best. There was a trend within the Russian socialist movement at the time, often called economism, which Lenin took particular issue with. The economists believed that the workers' everyday economic struggles would naturally lead them to develop a broader revolutionary political consciousness. Lenin thought this was a load of old cobblers. He argued that relying on spontaneity was a recipe for not much revolution at all. He famously stated that the spontaneous development of the working class movement leads to its subordination to bourgeois ideology. Lenin believed that socialist consciousness had to be actively introduced, taught, and spread by the vanguard party. For Lenin, this wasn't just an academic quibble, it was about the fundamental direction and effectiveness of the revolutionary movement. He wanted a party that would actively shape consciousness, pushing workers to see the bigger picture. If there's one line from What Is to Be Done that gets quoted more than your aunt's dubious Facebook memes, it's this: without revolutionary theory there can be no revolutionary movement. Lenin really meant it. He was arguing that a coherent, scientifically grounded theory, specifically Marxism, was indispensable for any group serious about changing the world. Why this devotion to theory? Lenin believed that revolutionary theory provided the map and the compass for the movement. It allowed activists to understand the underlying forces shaping society, the nature of capitalism, the role of class struggle, and the historical trajectory towards socialism. Without this theoretical framework, the movement would be stumbling around in the dark. Lenin saw theory as a crucial defense against bad ideas and opportunism. Marxist theory provided a yardstick against which ideas could be measured. For Lenin, if you weren't taking theory seriously, you weren't taking revolution seriously. Section 5, let's start a newspaper, and maybe topple a czar. So, you've got your vanguard party, you've got your revolutionary theory, but how do you actually connect with people? Lenin's answer was, a newspaper. He saw this as an absolutely vital tool. He argued that such a newspaper would serve multiple crucial functions. Firstly, it would be a collective propagandist. It would consistently present the party's Marxist analysis of events, explaining the political situation, exposing the injustices of the czarist regime and capitalism, and articulating the socialist vision for the future. Secondly, the newspaper would act as a collective agitator. It wouldn't just inform, it would stir people to action. It would highlight specific instances of oppression, call out corrupt officials, report on strikes and protests, and generally fan the flames of discontent. Most ingeniously, Lenin saw the newspaper as a collective organizer. The very process of creating, distributing, and discussing the newspaper would help to build the party's network. The newspaper, the spark, which Lenin was involved with, was precisely this kind of endeavor. Section 6. Party time, but make it secret and super strict. Alright, so you're building this vanguard party, armed with theory and a nationwide newspaper. How do you make sure it doesn't all fall apart, especially when you're operating in a country where the government really doesn't like you? Lenin's answer in What Is to Be Done was clear iron discipline, strict centralization, and a healthy dose of secrecy. The need for secrecy was pretty obvious given the context. The Tsarist Okhrana was an efficient and ruthless secret police force. Any open, transparent organization would be infiltrated and dismantled in a heartbeat. Lenin argued that in an autocratic state, the only way for a revolutionary organization to function effectively was to be as elusive and resilient as possible. Then there was the matter of discipline and centralization. Lenin advocated for a party structure where decisions made by higher bodies were binding on lower bodies and individual members. For Lenin, a revolutionary party needed to operate with the precision and unity of a military unit. Section 7. What is to be done? Drops. Cue the party drama, and a big split. When What Is to Be Done was published in 1902, it landed like a theoretical bomb in the middle of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party. The ideas Lenin laid out, the vanguard party, the critique of spontaneity, the emphasis on professional revolutionaries and strict discipline, were incredibly divisive. Some saw it as a brilliant blueprint for a successful revolution in Russian conditions. Others saw it as dangerously elitist, overly rigid, and a recipe for an undemocratic dictatorial party. The book became a central point of contention at the Second Congress of the RSDLP in 1903. This Congress was supposed to unify the party, but Lenin's ideas became a major fault line. The debate was fierce, and it ultimately led to a dramatic split in the party. The two factions that emerged were the Bolsheviks led by Lenin, and the Mensheviks led by Martov. This wasn't just a friendly disagreement over tactics, it was a fundamental divergence in their vision of what a revolutionary party should be. What Is to Be Done became the foundational text for Bolshevism. Section 8. So, did it work? Lenin's blueprint and its complicated enduring legacy. Did Lenin's revolutionary blueprint work? The Bolsheviks seized power in 1917, so yes, it did. The book's principles helped them navigate chaos and take control. It influenced communist movements globally. But its legacy is controversial. Critics cite its authoritarian tendencies. Centralization and elite vanguard ideas suppressed dissent. What Is to Be Done shaped history, for better or worse.